Hello guys, my name is Nelson,
And my name is Bruno.
and today, as you could see, our topic, following all the not the script, but the artifacts, the sequence, logic sequence of the events. We're gonna talk about the VSM, which it means value stream mapping, and we hope at the end of this episode, you guys might understand a little bit and decide what approach you're gonna use,
Yeah.
because myself and Bruno, we had small different ways to do the same activity. So
True.
maybe Bruno will cover one area, I will cover another one. So we hope at the end of this one, you guys can try just one and tell us what was the experience.
Which one works better for each group, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yesterday I was talking to a fellow colleague, but he supports a client, like
Mhm.
technical guy. They are working in a project environment. They are migrating from 2A to 2B.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they're migrating from a cloud-based
Legacy to
platform
cloud.
to a on-prem based platform.
Okay.
So the client is moving everything to its location. And one of the stories he's telling me is, well, we're struggling a lot because we're trying to run this particular job. That's the name how they call it. They run jobs, but the job was not running. They didn't know they had to run all these 10 other jobs before this one to
Mhm.
for it to work. So this is an example that I want to start with, because when we talk about value stream mapping, most people say, "Oh, but I don't manage a process. I manage, a tool. I manage a system or whatever, an infrastructure um, platform." This guy does not manage a process, but there is a process behind his project. So the process is this logical sequence of jobs and events they have to run. So VSM works for pretty much everyone, including development. There's a beginning, a midterm, and an end, depending on the scope of your development team. It might be bigger, but we know that this is more positive, if you will, for operations. So everyone there in your HR, operations of every kind, um, back office work, even some people in front office, asset management. What else? Procurement,
Financial.
financial.
I think that part of maybe CIOs, which you mentioned about people who develop systems and codes. I think that they might be able to use the VSM in terms of to understand the journey, when it starts and when it over, to understand if there is any we're gonna mention during this episode pain points and um, options or ideas to improve some areas. So I think that maybe VSM might be a good approach for anyone.
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 Yeah.
It's my thoughts.
Just give me a couple of examples of operations. So yeah, let's dive into our approaches. So what's the purpose of a value stream map?
I think the main proposal, let's say, about running VSM is to align to everybody the current process, right? Because we understand that some people might know, but maybe they, and at the end they will realize that they don't know straight from the beginning to the end the entire process, right? So I think it's the first moment it will be to align and share knowledge about the whole process itself.
I agree. One thing that comes to my mind, I was going to write it down not to forget it, but is as simple as we used to work. I have seen many times in many processes uh, um, two kinds of process mappings: a desk level procedure mapping, which is every single step of activities, which is a very detailed level of mapping, and MLPs, right, master level processes, which is the similar version to value stream mapping. But in my experience, what's the difference? First of all, the value stream mapping is built up by the group. not an external consultant, which supposedly is a subject matter expert. We need a subject matter expert, but it is understood that uh, the subject matter expert is supposed to be in the team, not outside of the team. So um, eventually, the team will change. People will go do other things. They will, get promoted, go to other areas. But that process stays, and other people take over. So value stream mapping is a way to map the process as is, because regardless if you have a desk level procedure, a master level procedure, uh, the current day-to-day job, there are different steps that are taken, and some of the steps that are not necessarily taken that were mapped in these two versions. So if by having a especially a physical example, a physical version of a value stream mapping will enable the team to constantly reassess and evolve that process, never losing touch, never losing control of where we are. Like so, it's very powerful right there. You never lose control. You always have it. It's kind of like your BHAG all the time, right there. That's
Yeah,
especially that particular piece where people are leaving the team, new people are coming.
yeah,
Also allows them to better train newcomers. I
yeah.
think that's also very good.
We were talking about this because myself and Bruno, we were invited recently to run, a couple of VSMs, and we understood that the mastery, like to allow people to become mastery on the process, that it is aligned, to share knowledge, and also we understood that um, it's pretty powerful when you have like new hires, new people come in, and also a good timing for if someone leaves the team, if to understand if that part of the process is also out of the process because the only person that used to run that piece of work just left,
Right.
so I think that
That can
is
happen.
it might happen.
It might happen. Yeah.
you know
Yeah. It's powerful. Very powerful tool. Um, so, um, what are other purposes of running a value stream mapping? So, the other purposes is for you to calculate your activity time. So you might have 10 actions, 10 steps and activities that your your team does.
hmm
Between those activities, there are handoffs, which we call waiting time.
waiting time.
And then calculating all these things, and we can use Kanban to calculate them. Next week we will be talking about uh, the Scrum Guide, but next year the first episode will be Kanban. We will cover how to calculate lead time. But basically, when you have calculated all the activity time and waiting time, you will achieve something that we call process efficiency percentage. And the process efficiency percentage is, of course, the percentage of your process that is calculated between your activity time versus
Yes.
how much waiting time you have. So the smaller the waiting time, the bigger the process efficiency. And having that, visibility, I think, is also very unique, um, positive, and benefit that this brings, right?
hmm Yeah, I think that you mentioned, and when you talked about BHAGs, and where you want to be, as you mentioned about the as is scenario. I think that doing the VSM allow you to give the opportunity also to imagine and draw the future state about with improvements and resolving the pain points, how it will be the new VSM based on the all the improvements you guys did. So you could set up a BHAG because if you identify that your process is less than 10%, you have like a huge, tremendous opportunity to to improve your process, and maybe you could set up as a BHAG for how what we can do in terms of to increase 1%, 2%.
Yeah.
What are the minimum we could do in terms of to reduce even 30 minutes, 10 minutes, and
Anything
imagine
matters. anything counts.
Anything counts, you know.
Yeah.
So also a part of the talking about the VSM, afterwards you guys listed out, you know, the pain points. You might use some of the techniques that we talk about, you know, design thinking, which is voting, that people might decide which is the main pain point, and then base it on the the top three main pain points. um, we could also do not on the single session, but other day in another moment, like a brainstorming session that, as we call ideation, that people might silent, you know, using post-its as a silent way to, you know, write it down in a piece of paper and put it into the wall, so people might understand and share knowledge and how to improve it, you know.
Right.
So I think that it could be, you know, one of the techniques that people might be able to use in terms of, you know, on a VSM session that allow in a different way, in a different moment, a moment for brainstorming and discuss a little bit about,
Yeah.
you know, improvements. They could
Right.
do it, you know.
Right. Awesome. Powerful. So what you said just
I just
took
remember
me.
that I think today was my first day. I took some notes, so I got a piece of paper here. I don't want to forget. Oh yeah, here we go. I got my piece of paper about VSM.
Well,
Okay, go ahead, man.
that's practical.
Yeah, I put some.
That's useful.
Yeah, because I always forget something when I'm talking to the camera.
So when you were talking about that, it took me back to that session that you led last week. It was last week.
I think was.
And I realized that, well, first of all, running a value stream mapping is hard work. Like there's, regardless of the size of your process, we've done a couple. The process, the first one I did 4 steps, 4 to 5 steps. The last step is very small, so like 4 relevant steps. We took 4 sessions of 2 hours, so that's a whole day. We didn't had the opportunity to do it the full day, which would be the most appropriate way to do it, because you just basically focus on that, and there's no breaks, and you just focus, and you at the end of the session you live with the value stream mapping ready. But the main difference, so that's the first
Yeah, I was
first
about
step.
to mention.
Remember, try to separate dedicated time to really do beginning to the end, all the way to the end, so you can leave with a result. Right?
Yeah, I think that it is a good approach and intro for what we were about to say about different ways to
Yeah.
do VSM, because the way I do is pretty much, what is the proposal? Why do you guys need to do a VSM? Right? Oh, I need to identify pain points and, you know, ideas to resolve the pain points, right? So we go straight forward, not task level. We just try to manage 80% of the flow, which we go from the back to from the beginning. So we try to summarize in small, big steps, right? So we can do fastly. I'm not sure if fastly, but it doesn't exist that
Faster.
word. Faster. Thank you, guys. I'm sorry, but, you know, faster. Um, Calculation about activity time and waiting time and process efficiency percentage. So we have like a big picture, like an hour and a half, and then for another an hour and a half, we have enough time for brainstorming to think about it, the pain points, right, as a silent brainstorming, and then group sharing,
Right.
and then another moment to, you know, do ideation, and we can, at the end of the session, we can have like a matrix. Remember the last episode we were talking risk wall and blah blah blah. We do the same, not as a issue bullseye, but we could put in a matrix risks, you know, risk wall that they think what is most important risk that might become an issue. But, you know, it is a different approach, and I know that Bruno, as you could see on the you know, on the TV, they spend like days and sessions.
It was
That
1 day.
one day just to map the flow, right? They are not talking about, you know, pain points and no calculations, just the process as is with the task level, connections, you know, if something goes, go back and go forward and further.
Let's wait for the example.
Okay. Here we go.
So it's a very large process. And I had two friends, two colleagues. 1 year ago, it was like, I believe it was February last year, more than a year and a half now. We did it together. It was me and two more. One of them was through the whole process. So this is a lot of work, and this was like a prototype, but it worked. But the reason why I chose, and I actually this one was an experiment, but that taught me a lot, and I really believe that MVP is something that it really drives and draws a very important line for accomplishment, for continuous delivery, right? So the reason why I prefer and I recommend doing in pieces is everything I do, I try to look at that as a product. So this is a product.
Mm-hmm.
The the more um, accurate it gets, the better. So I believe the main difference between your approach and my approach is that your approach is more of a teacher coach approach, where people will learn how to do it, they will set out to do it themselves, rather than my approach is more like a product to be created. Like
Mm-hmm.
we set out to achieve and create the product. We will touch, and like the first one that we did here, that I did with the first group that I did last month, we calculated as well. But what's the main goal is? Main goal is, after we do the value stream mapping, and this is something you taught me, is we create a value stream mapping so that the value stream mapping will drive the creation of the Kanban. The Kanban, and this is something that Steve Krago taught me, is the Kanban will help us calculate lead time and throughput.
Lead
Once
time and operation lead time.
once we calculate those things, we can actually have a more reliable number for the activity time and waiting time, rather than using the you know the brainstorming results, which is something that is a perception. It is a perception of the group, but when you actually have the data to rely on, it's it's one step at a time. Deliver the value stream mapping. That that result will input into creating your Kanban. Look at those. Start mapping your process in terms of activity time and waiting time. You will, every iteration you deliver something, so you can showcase this.
Yeah,
We
that's for
created the
sure.
value stream mapping. Showcase the value stream mapping. Now we're our BHAG create the Kanban. Created the Kanban. Our next showcase shows the Kanban. Next time we will calculate lead time. Then we'll calculate throughput. Then we'll calculate cycle time. And after that, we'll go back to value stream mapping and start putting the numbers in, and we will find the waste.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my approach. It takes longer, but I like to be cautious, and
Yeah, it doesn't mean like we are not
it's
being
just
cautious.
two different
The
approaches.
approaches. Yeah, that's for sure. And I think that before we end, I just put some tips so you guys can
Yeah, I have
maybe
one too.
you get inspired to, after this episode, to try to run your own VSM. So some tips will be, the first one, as we say, always use sheets, pens, and pencils. Right? We put some examples in here, so as you could see. Also, I guess Bruno wrote it down, some English words
These are the
for
ones that I
materials.
Yeah.
So we got glue. What else?
Yeah, so for this particular example, I used rubber bands for
The lines
for the
between
swim lanes. We use glue because of the black rubber.
Mm-hmm.
That particular rubber is too soft, so we needed like a back harder
Mm-hmm.
surface. So we glued them together. Of course, these are prototypes, and we also use this woolen yarn. It's a very new word for us.
We search on Google.
Woolen yarn, right? The ones that the cats love. You know what I mean? This we used for the arrows. So that's it's easy. It's easier to start in the beginning and use the woolen yarn all the way to the end, and you can wrap them around the pins, so it works beautifully. So it's also a lot of fun. And when you're doing a value stream mapping workshop, do it as a breakfast. Like bring food, have everyone interacting. This is supposed to be a collaborative session, a guided collaborative session, but a fun session. And at the end of the day, everyone will feel more empowered and more responsible for the process as is. And like we said before, if we're looking at agile, we're looking at delivering value, but at the same time, this began with software development. So delivering software is delivering products. So why not look at your process as a product?
Alrighty, man. So the next one
I
I
know I
put
talk
it.
too much.
No worries, man. We get excited because we know how powerful it is.
Yeah.
So the second one I put it, and it is like it's hard, but no laptops, no mobiles, anything that might take your attention, because
Definitely.
it's pretty much important that everybody that
Mhm.
are aligned to that process to be in the room, and they need to be focused because they need to live some of the values that we have mentioned several other times here. Valueless, respect, courage, trust, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Right. So don't try to do that as alone. You should have the team, and
Everyone.
before you go to a room, uh, get the key players that know that process. Because otherwise, if you put somebody, or if you invite someone to go to that room and he doesn't know the process, he might be watching the cell phone, and he might, you know, influence negative influence to other ones that because some sessions might be bored. So that's why Bruno said, bring food.
Yeah.
It should be fun. Put some music, so you can build up
Music.
creativity.
It's awesome.
Music. I just love to use music, and
it
you
is.
you saw that on my
Yeah, that works
VSM. They
very
have
well.
like people feel happy. You know,
Happy hour.
have a room. Don't try to use open spaces that noise it from outside, and your own noise might cause problem to other team members that are
Yeah.
not involved to that
Yeah.
one. And I love that one. Don't use the VSM for decoration. Leave that, because maybe you can put the
Yes.
VSM on the wall and will be, oh, look what we did. And Bruno
It
just
stays
said,
there.
use as a BHAG, what will be the next approach. So that's why when I do straightforward to identify pain points and ideas to resolve, is to, for the next iteration, put in the backlog all the ideas, breaking stories, and Scrum, as you guys already
Yeah.
heard. You heard about ourselves talking about some of the Scrum things.
Yeah.
So get clarity, and everybody needs to be aligned, and they should be okay and no doubts. They need to leave the room with no concerns, because concerns should be addressed on their room. So as I said, and draw the future state. I think that in the next opportunity, how will be the VSM with no pain points.
Yeah. The BHAG.
Just a bit different,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
What else, man?
Yeah, we covered that, have everyone that is involved in the process in the room. Um, what else? No need to have your manager in the room. No need. There's no value added for both sides. No need. Of course, it has to be aligned, but it's an opportunity for the team to
The team
lead,
opportunity.
right? To lead the build-up, to be responsible, and to create, um, their own, power, their own responsibility behind it.
Yeah, I think that if you have like an open environment, which the manager won't, be mad if you will say that something is not going well because managing is not supporting you. Why not? I saw some VSMs with managers in the room, and he was also pointing pain points, so it was funny. But it depends.
It works. It might work.
It works. Okay, guys, so I think we are over today. It's Friday. We are getting closer to the Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Next week, we're gonna cover
Scrum
Scrum.
Guide.
Hope you guys.
Scrum Guide
What?
updates 2017.
Right. And then we're gonna get like a special guest. And then we're gonna take some days off, and then 2018 we're gonna go back to Kanban.
Kanban for life. Kanban is awesome.
All right, guys. So
Favorite.
see you
Thanks for
next
joining
time.
us.
Thank you.
Subscribe, like, share our channel, help us, support us, and live agile, live your beliefs.
Thank you, guys. Later.